Clara and the mailman shared a simple moment that changed everything. What began as an ordinary delivery quickly spiraled into a deadly mystery, unraveling dark secrets hidden for decades and pulling Clara into a dangerous game where trust could mean the difference between life and death. In a quiet suburban neighborhood where the houses stood neatly lined up, life moved at a calm and predictable pace. The streets were peaceful, and most days nothing out of the ordinary happened. People went about their routines, children played in yards, and neighbors exchanged friendly waves. Among these familiar faces was Clara, a woman in her early 30s who lived alone in a small, well-kept house. She worked from home, keeping to herself mostly, enjoying the comfort of her simple, orderly life. Every morning, she awaited the arrival of the mailman, a man who had become a routine presence in her day. He was polite and consistent, delivering letters and packages without fail, always with a quiet nod and a smile. On this particular morning, the air was crisp with the first hints of autumn, leaves beginning to turn golden and fall gently to the ground. Clara stepped outside to collect her mail, expecting the usual assortment of bills and advertisements. Instead, the mailman approached her with a package that was unusual in size and weight. It was wrapped in plain brown paper, tied with a simple string, and bore only her name and address. There was no return address, no indication of where it came from. The mailman handed it to her with a steady hand, their fingers briefly touching in the exchange. A small moment that felt oddly charged, as if something significant had passed between them. Clara's curiosity was immediately piqued. She did not recall ordering anything recently, and the mysterious nature of the package sent a shiver down her spine. She took it inside, placing it carefully on her kitchen table, and studied it. The wrapping was old-fashioned and the paper rough, unlike the usual plastic or branded packaging she was used to. The weight suggested something substantial inside, not just papers or small items. Her mind raced with questions. Who had sent this? Why now? And why had the mailman seemed almost hesitant or cautious during the delivery? She tried to dismiss the feeling that something was off, telling herself it might be a gift from a distant relative or perhaps something she had forgotten ordering a long time ago. Yet, the unease lingered. As she stood by the window, watching the mailman continue his route down the street, Clara couldn't shake the sense that this moment was more than just a routine delivery. There was an unspoken connection between them, a silent acknowledgement that something important was beginning. The mailman glanced back once, their eyes meeting briefly before he disappeared around the corner. That day, Clara felt a strange mixture of excitement and fear. The package was a puzzle piece dropped into her otherwise ordinary life, a signal that things were about to change. She carefully untied the string and peeled back the brown paper, revealing an old, leather-bound journal. The scent of aged paper and faint leather filled the room. The journal's cover was cracked and worn, clearly decades old. Inside, the pages were filled with delicate handwriting and strange symbols that Clara could not immediately understand. The journal seemed personal, almost intimate, as if it had belonged to someone close to her. But she couldn't place who. As she turned the pages, the world outside faded away. Clara was drawn into a story not her own, but somehow deeply connected to her. The mailman's simple delivery had opened a door to the past, and Clara was standing on the threshold of a mystery far greater than she had ever imagined. The peaceful morning had transformed into the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything she knew about her life, her family, and the quiet neighborhood she thought she understood so well. The journal Clara found inside the mysterious package was unlike anything she had ever seen before. Its leather cover was cracked and worn, and the pages inside were yellowed with age, filled with a delicate script written in ink that had faded over time. As she carefully flipped through the pages, Clara noticed that the handwriting was neat but hurried, as if the writer had been desperate to record every detail before it was too late. The words told a story, but not one that was easy to follow. There were references to places she had never heard of, dates that stretched back decades, and names that seemed both familiar and strange at the same time. Among the lines of text were strange symbols and codes, scattered throughout the journal like hidden messages. Clara's eyes lingered on these odd markings, wondering what they could mean. Some pages contained sketches of buildings, maps, and even faces. Although the drawings were rough and faded, the journal seemed like a puzzle, carefully designed to conceal something important. Clara's sense of unease grew as she realized this was not just an old diary, it was a guide, a secret record that someone had painstakingly put together to reveal a hidden truth. She spent hours studying the entries, trying to make sense of the cryptic notes. One passage stood out in particular, a description of a small town on the edge of the forest, a place where shadows lingered and people whispered of disappearances that no one dared to investigate. The writer spoke of danger lurking beneath the surface, of secrets so dark that they threatened to consume anyone who got too close. Clara felt a chill run down her spine as she connected the dots. The journal wasn't just a collection of memories. It was a warning. As she read deeper, Clara began to notice recurring names, victims of something sinister that had gone unnoticed by the world. Some were strangers. Others had vague connections to her own life. The weight of the discovery pressed down on her, making her question how much she really knew about her own past and the people around her. The more she uncovered, the clearer it became that the journal was meant for her, that its arrival was no accident. Meanwhile, the mailman's presence began to take on a new meaning. His casual visits now felt purposeful, each delivery more deliberate than the last. Clara wondered if he had been watching her all along, waiting for the right moment to place the journal in her hands. Was he an ally, or was there something more unsettling behind his quiet demeanor? The uncertainty gnawed at her, making her cautious every time she saw him approach. Clara's world was shifting beneath her feet. The simple act of receiving a package had unlocked a secret history filled with danger and mystery. She realized that she was now a part of a story much larger than herself, a story woven with fear, betrayal, and hidden truths. The journal was a key, but the door it unlocked led to shadows she was only beginning to understand. Every page turned brought her closer to answers, but also closer to a threat she couldn't yet see. Despite the growing fear, Clara knew she couldn't ignore what she had found. The journal was more than just a book. It was a message from the past, a call to uncover the truth that had been buried for far too long. The silent connection she shared with the mailman was only the beginning. What lay ahead was uncertain, but Clara felt a strange determination building inside her. She was ready to follow the clues, no matter where they led. Clara's discovery soon took a darker turn as she began piecing together the disturbing connections hidden within the journal. The names listed on its pages matched several unsolved disappearances from decades ago, cases that had haunted the nearby town but never reached a conclusion. These were not random victims. The journal hinted they were all linked by a common thread, a shadowy presence that had eluded capture for years. The more Clara delved into the journal, the more she realized she was unraveling a mystery that had been carefully concealed, one that reached far beyond her quiet neighborhood. Each name brought with it a story of tragedy. People vanished without a trace, their disappearances dismissed as accidents or runaways. But the journal told a different tale, one of abduction and fear, of lives taken in secret. Clara's mind raced as she tried to understand how these crimes had been allowed to remain hidden for so long. There were mentions of people who had tried to investigate but were silenced or frightened into silence. The sense of danger was real and immediate, lurking just beneath the surface of the town's peaceful facade. The mailman, who had once seemed like a simple courier, now appeared in a different light. Clara began noticing his presence more keenly, how he lingered just a moment too long at the end of the street, how his eyes seemed to watch her house more often than necessary. At times, she caught glimpses of him observing from a distance, blending into the shadows but never far away. Was he involved in this mystery, or was he someone trying to protect her from it? The uncertainty twisted in her stomach like a knot she couldn't untie. Clara's fear deepened when strange things started happening around her home. She found signs that someone had been there. Small footprints in the dirt near her back door, the faint smell of cigarette smoke lingering where no one should have been. The journal's warnings about hidden threats no longer felt like distant words on a page. They were a real presence creeping into her life. What she found was a pattern of silence and cover-ups, official reports that glossed over inconvenient details, witnesses who changed their stories, and a community desperate to forget. The journal had opened a door into a past many wanted to keep locked. As the pieces fell into place, Clara understood that the mailman's arrival with the journal was no coincidence. He was part of a larger plan, whether as an investigator or a warning messenger. The special moment they shared during the delivery had marked the start of a dangerous game. Clara now stood at the center of a mystery that stretched across years, involving hidden criminals, frightened townspeople, and secrets that threatened to consume anyone who dared uncover them. The weight of the truth pressed on her, but Clara refused to turn away. She knew the path ahead would be perilous, filled with deception and peril, but the need for answers drove her forward. With the journal as her guide and the mailman watching from the shadows, Clara braced herself for the dark journey into a past that refused to stay buried. The peaceful neighborhood had changed forever, and so had she. As days turned into restless nights, Clara's sense of being watched grew stronger. Every time she looked out her window, she caught fleeting glimpses of shadows slipping away, or felt the weight of unseen eyes on her. Strange noises echoed near her home, soft footsteps crunching leaves in the dark, the distant hum of an engine fading quickly into silence. The uneasy calm of her life shattered, replaced by a creeping dread that danger was closing in. The mailman's visits, once routine, now carried an unspoken tension. He appeared at unpredictable times, sometimes pausing just outside her door, as if waiting for a signal. Clara noticed how his eyes darted nervously whenever she approached, and how his hands, usually steady, trembled slightly as he handed over envelopes or packages. She could no longer tell if he was friend or foe. His silence weighed heavily, adding layers to the mystery she was desperate to solve. Clara's investigation, fueled by the journal, led her to a neglected part of town on the outskirts of the forest. The location was shrouded in an eerie stillness, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. Old buildings, long abandoned, stood in ruin, their windows dark and hollow like empty eyes. The journal's maps guided her steps, each landmark matching the faded sketches in its pages. She felt the pulse of history here, painful memories embedded in the soil, whispered stories carried by the wind. As she explored the area, Clara uncovered hidden signs, a worn path leading into the trees, symbols carved into tree trunks, and fragments of fabric tangled in the underbrush. The place felt alive with secrets, a place where past horrors had played out away from prying eyes. The realization settled in. This was the heart of the mystery, the site where victims had been taken or where the shadows had first fallen. Clara's courage wavered as the forest seemed to close in around her, but the need for answers drove her onward. Each step felt heavier, as if the ground itself resisted her presence. She knew that the journal's cryptic warnings were not just stories, but signs pointing to something sinister hidden beneath layers of silence and fear. The truth was close, but so was the danger. Back in her home, the threats intensified. Anonymous notes appeared, slipped under her door or left on her porch. Cryptic messages warning her to stop digging, signed only with a chilling symbol matching the ones in the journal. Phone calls came with nothing but heavy breathing on the other end, and Clara's every move was shadowed by figures just beyond the reach of her sight. The boundary between safety and threat blurred, leaving her isolated and uncertain. In this tense atmosphere, the mailman's role grew more complex. One evening, Clara found him waiting at her doorstep, an envelope extended silently toward her. Inside was a single photograph, an old image showing a group of people, including someone who looked eerily like Clara's own mother. The connection hit her like a storm. The mystery was not just about the town or forgotten victims, but intertwined with her own family's past. This revelation changed everything. The danger was no longer distant. It was deeply personal. Clara realized that the journal, the mailman, and the hidden location were pieces of a puzzle that involved her own identity. She was no longer a bystander, but a key player in a dark saga reaching back generations. With the forest's secrets waiting to be uncovered and threats closing in from all sides, Clara stood at a crossroads. The special moment shared with the mailman had led her to a path fraught with peril, but also the promise of truth. She knew that moving forward meant facing shadows not just in the world around her, but inside herself. The answers she sought would come at a cost, and the price might be higher than she ever imagined. The final chapter of Clara's journey unfolded with a mix of revelation and danger that left her life forever changed. The mailman, who had once been a figure of quiet routine, was now revealed as much more than a simple delivery worker. In truth, he was an undercover investigator working to expose a deep and dangerous criminal network that had thrived in the shadows for years. The package he delivered, the leather-bound journal, was carefully placed to draw Clara into the investigation, knowing her unique connection to the past would be crucial in uncovering the truth. Clara learned that her family's history was tangled with the dark secrets the journal revealed. The photograph the mailman gave her was a key piece of evidence, linking her mother to those involved in the unresolved crimes. Her family had been part of a hidden story of betrayal and silence, a story that someone had tried desperately to erase. The mailman's role was to bring her the journal and help her navigate the dangerous path toward justice, though he could not reveal everything at once. Together, though often apart and without direct conversation, Clara and the mailman moved through a web of threats and clues. They followed leads that took them from forgotten buildings on the edge of town to dusty archives filled with old records. Each discovery brought them closer to exposing the criminals who had used fear and influence to keep their actions hidden. The closer they got, the more dangerous their situation became. Anonymous warnings escalated to real threats. Broken windows, shadowy figures lurking near Clara's home, and once, a car that followed her silently down a deserted road. Despite the fear, Clara's resolve hardened. The special moment she shared with the mailman during the delivery was not a mere coincidence, but the beginning of a partnership that would bring long-awaited justice. She realized that ordinary moments could hold extraordinary significance, that a simple exchange could ignite a chain of events leading to truth and redemption. In a tense confrontation, the mailman revealed more about the criminal network. Powerful individuals who had operated behind the scenes, using intimidation to silence witnesses and manipulate local authorities. The journal was part of a careful plan to expose these people by piecing together decades-old evidence and fresh testimonies. Clara's unique connection to the victims and her family's past made her vital to the investigation's success. The story culminated in a dramatic raid organized by law enforcement, coordinated with the mailman and Clara's help. The criminals were finally brought to justice, their network dismantled. Victims' families found closure, and the town could begin to heal from the scars left by years of hidden violence. In the quiet aftermath, Clara received one last package from the mailman. It contained a sealed envelope with documents revealing her own identity, true history, details about her mother's involvement, the sacrifices made to protect her, and the reasons why the past had remained buried for so long. This final delivery changed Clara's understanding of herself and her family forever. The story ended with Clara standing alone, holding the envelope as the sun set behind the trees. The special moment she shared with the mailman had altered her life in ways she never expected. It was a reminder that even in the most ordinary exchanges, there can be hidden meanings and profound consequences. The delivery was more than just a package. It was a key that unlocked a dangerous past, a spark that ignited a quest for truth, and a connection that would never be forgotten.